Hi, this is Acme with the US stock highlights here on Share Talk for Monday, the 15th of March. Starting off with Iternis Entaris, which is a rather poetically named company. Here we've had a gap to the upside, and the floor of the gap at Friday's peak at around the $1.24 level, while we're above that on an end-of-day close basis, looking for resistance on the way down in February at the $2 level. That could be seen over the next couple of weeks, hopefully. There is some resistance there at today's high from an old resistance line from last April, but hopefully that is something which is a temporary block rather than a more serious one, especially given the way that the 50-day line is rising and should provide positive momentum alongside the gap to the upside. One of the more high-flying and high-profile stocks at the moment is AMC Entertainment, and we've had our second gap in a week, I think, here with the gap up from Friday's peak. That was at $11.40, and while we're above that, looking for a retest of the January resistance towards $20. If you're trying to have a more tight stop loss, then perhaps last week's intraday high at $12.47 would be the appropriate one for you at the moment on an end-of-day close basis, of course. In terms of the time frame of that $20 target, hopefully by the end of next month. Moving along to a stock which has spiked up quite sharply today, Chek Limited. Here the name of the game is to see whether we can close above that initial January resistance at $2.93, above that on an end-of-day close basis, and we could have a retest of the best levels of today towards $4.50 over the next 2 to 3 weeks, but we need to remain above $2.93 on an end-of-day close basis to deliver further decent upside. Stock which has been covered here before, but not that often, is Denison Mines Corporation. Here we've had a gap to the upside after the one touch of the 50-day moving average earlier in the month, and the view is that while there's no end-of-day close back below Friday's high at $1.15, we could retest $1.80 or so, which was last month's resistance, and do that by the end of next month. If you're looking for a further trigger on the upside, an end-of-day close above $1.33 should or would do the trick. Going on to a stock which is rather obscure to my mind. I don't remember looking at this before, but here we have Gnmk Diagnostics gapping through the previous December resistance at $23.59, and while we're above that on an end-of-day close basis, looking for a target here as high as $35 over the next month or so. At this stage only really back below the initial March peak at $21.31, really delaying the upside scenario. Moving along to a good old-fashioned name here, and one which I suppose might have become embroiled in the whole Robin Hood GameStop type situation. Here we've got Macy's doing very well at the moment. We've just approaching the January resistance around $22.30. End of day close above that could take the shares up to as high as $32 or $33, which is an April resistance line projection from last year. If you're looking for a stop loss, probably the initial resistance from March around $17.50, the one to shoot for at the moment, but a nice setup there at the moment for Macy's. Onto a stock which is doing rather well as well technically, and also has a rather simple chart, which is nice. Double neckline resistance in February and March around the $6.50 area, and while we're above that, looking for a potential target here at Oriental Culture as high as $15 by the end of next month. Unfortunately, at the moment, can't really come up with a tighter stop loss than the $6.50 area. Perhaps half of today's range, which is around the $5 level, so $2.50 off the 9.30 area, but that's still $6.80 to $7 as a stop loss, which is obviously quite wide. Moving along to a stock which doesn't seem very familiar at all. I don't think I've looked at it before, but I stand corrected if I have. Rmbl Leon. Here we've got a clearance of the February resistance at $53.50, and above that on an end of day close basis. We're looking for a target here as high as $88, which is the top of a rising trend channel for Rmbl. That's been in place since December 2019, and that gives us a pretty decent upside from current levels, with a reasonable risk reward as well. $53.50 versus around the $57.50 level now. Pretty decent in terms of the stop loss area. Onto a stock which has been here covered here many times before. It's Sndl Growers. Here you can see that we've got the shares pushing through the initial March resistance at $1.41. Above that on an end of day close basis, looking for as high as $4 plus over the next 1 to 2 months, which is the top of a rising trend channel from basically the beginning of April last year. Onto one of today's best risers, and here you can see that we've got a stock which is Sigma Labs, which is sort of gapped higher and also soared through the previous peak, which was around $5.65. Above that on an end of day close basis, looking towards the old November 2019 resistance zone as high as $11 plus by the end of next month. Stock which has been a frequent flyer here and is back again, SOS Limited. The situation here in terms of the charting now, gap to the upside, which has followed the bounce off a support line there from the beginning of the year. That was running at around $5.90. The view at this stage is, well, there's no end of day close back below Friday's peak at $5.88. We're looking forward to a potential initial target of $9.25 at the initial March peak, but should be able to hit the top of that gap at $9.76 over the next week or so, given the latest gap that we've had for SOS. Just a couple of stocks to go now. First one I looked at, certainly looked at last week and has done rather well. Tkat Art. Here we've blown out the initial target that we had there towards $6.80. And now the view is that while we're above $6.80, we could hit a rather steep line of resistance from December 2019 as high as $15 by the end of next month. Finishing off today with Liquid Media Group. Here we've broken a line of resistance from back in November 2019. That was running around the $3.05 level, and above that on an end of day close basis, looking for the top of the trend channel from the end of 2019 as high as $4.50 by the end of next month. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.